Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Saturday, October the 23rd, and I am here for the first time, new NBA duo together here on our Saturday NBA show. We have 8 great games, and I am joined by the one and only Josh Crash Davis. Are you ready for some NBA, sir?
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. We're always usually doing baseball together, so we're going to switch it up today and do some basketball. So I'm looking forward to it.
I love it. And you know me, I'm all about the hoops, as you can tell about Dirk's smile, if you notice, has gotten much bigger now that basketball's back.
Yeah.
And we got all kinds of Michael and Kobe. We got all kinds of help back here behind us if we need it. So totally off subject. Have you had a chance to look at the final top 75 that the NBA announced the other day?
I haven't. But, I was going to say, because I was just kind of thinking as you were talking, basketball was my first love. It's the way that I started out on all sports.
Wow.
I liked basketball as a young child, and I played basketball from the 2nd to the 9th grade and team sports and stuff. So basketball was always my favorite sport growing up. And then as I got older, I got more into football and baseball as well. But basketball was the first one that I really got into because of Michael Jordan and, Charles Barkley and all those guys as I was growing up. So I just wanted to mention that real quick.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And I knew I liked you for a reason, man. I knew you were one of those football heads, just
Right.
Packers guys. But for me, and I've always felt this way, I think NBA players are the best athletes in the world. To be able to, handle the ball, finish shots, just the athleticism that it takes with everything, hand-eye coordination. I mean, every aspect of sport. I could go on and on about basketball, but it's, it's an exciting season for us here. It's so great to not have to worry about shortened schedules, less time between games, bubbles, all the different stuff that went on during COVID. We'll have a full 82 games this year and a great test, and it's back to normal. So I think we can, even from a DFS standpoint, it allows us to really get back to what we do best. So yeah, very exciting. And that 75 list, take a look at it when you have a chance. It's pretty amazing.
Will.
Yeah, there's a lot of new guys they added. They was a best 50 players, but
right.
A lot of the new guys like Dame and all this generation, Giannis, are all on that team now too. So it's a great list, and it's fun to debate. A couple of tough guys left off, but for the most part, it really is a great list.
Just real quick, who was the most noticeable for you that was left off the list?
I guess Dwight Howard, just because he has a championship, he had MVPs, he was defensive player of the year multiple times. He really was a dominant player. I remember that stretch of 3 or 4 years where he was just untouchable, and I thought he got cheated a little bit. Tracy McGrady's another one. He dominated the sport for a stretch there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, and Howard will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but it did not quite make the cut. But for the most part, they added the guys they needed to add. I personally would have added Luka, but no, I'm just kidding. He's got a little bit to prove yet. Maybe when they have the 100th anniversary, he'll be on that 100.
I don't think you have anything to worry about there. I'm sure he's going to be on there. So he'll be on there eventually for sure.
As long as he stays healthy,
Yeah.
Well, let's get into this slate. I appreciate everybody jumping in here. It's Saturday morning, pretty early. We want to get this out there so everybody has a chance to check it out. It's a nice 8-game NBA slate. 7 games on the main slate on DraftKings. You can play the all-day slate on FanDuel and Yahoo, and it is 8 games. So we're going to touch on all of those. And format we're going to use here is I'm going to introduce the game. We'll go over the line, the implied totals, talk about the injuries, and then we're going to just break each team down a bit in this matchup. Josh will throw his 2 cents into the pile, and then I will try to add to that and just give everybody a feel. We were talking a little bit before the podcast started. And it is a different situation than other sports, especially early in the season and teams that made a lot of changes. So I really don't trust, to be honest with you, just dumping stuff into an optimizer, because you're going on statistical analysis of teams that have changed players, the
Right.
scenario's different. So everything, the main things that we'll look at more and more as the season goes on, stuff like defensive real plus minus, defensive rating, pace even, those things are going to adjust and change. You certainly can't get a good sample size for 1 or 2 games. So it's a combination of utilizing the new statistics for this season, combining them with last season's and the historical analysis, and then putting your own spin on what we've seen, because that's what gives us an edge. It allows us to hand build some really fantastic lineups. So, you won't hear as much statistical breakdown, but it is baked into what we're talking about. But I think it can be overutilized and steer you the wrong way on some guys. So we're going to break it down for combination of all those things together. All right, man. Real quickly, if on the way in here, if you're watching this on YouTube, a quick thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, put a little message in there, liked it, or a question, whatever. That really helps us move up the algorithm on YouTube as we try to grow our viewership. And we do a 7-day-a-week NBA podcast in front of the paywall. So we would absolutely appreciate that. If you're listening to us audio-wise, everywhere podcasts can be heard, whether it be the brand new Amazon podcasts or Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it, we're everywhere. So if you do that, we have only 8 days left. Halloween ends the contest. For anybody that puts a 5-star and a little comment, you have a chance to get into the random drawing that Joe Stanton will do for us, and you'll win a 1-week free membership for everything that we have here at Coach Talk. All right, first game, and we're going to discuss this when we go over all the games. It is Atlanta Hawks and Cleveland Cavaliers. It is a weird start time, 6 p.m. Eastern, so that's why this game stands alone on some of the sites or isn't part of the main slate like on DraftKings. So it's the Hawks versus the Cavaliers. Atlanta, who looked phenomenal against the Dallas Mavs in game 1, they're a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is 222.5, and the implied total for Atlanta is 115. For the Cavaliers, excuse me, it's 107.5. So interesting game here. And then from an injury standpoint in this game, we know that Danilo Gallinari is questionable. He missed the first game. And Okongwu, their second-year center, is out. For the Cleveland side, Garland is probable. He missed the last game, but should be back in this one. And Dylan Windler is questionable. So, my friend, your NBA debut, the first team that you have to discuss here, give us some stone cold Josh Crash Davis knowledge on the Atlanta Hawks. What do you think about them in this matchup?
Well, I think they're probably going to be they're going to, Cleveland's probably going to be overmatched in this matchup. So I think that Atlanta's probably going to put them away pretty early. I mean, if they can do what they did to Dallas, who's a much better team than Cleveland, at least on paper, and I'm pretty sure they are. And I think it was just kind of a fluky game for Dallas in that first game. But, I think that they can probably put them away early. So I'm not sure how heavy I would go in on Atlanta in this game. But I think that probably, Capella, I like Clint Capella in this game, and then obviously Trae Young. So those would probably be my 2 main guys that I would be looking at to play.
Yeah, and Atlanta did look sharp in that first game. There's no doubt about it. But, you're going to have Trae Young, Bogdanovich, Hunter, Collins, and Capella probably starting. Their bench got good minutes. They have DeLon Wright, and Lou Williams, Herter. Cam Reddish looked really good. Man, did he have a game. And then, they'll use Gorgie Jang, who really had a terrific game off the bench. I used him as a punt play. And when he gets minutes, he's like Boban, man.
Yeah.
He's going to get some points. And I agree with you. I think Atlanta really does have Cleveland overmatched, and therefore, little bit downgrade on the starters on this team for this game. I think the bench will get a lot of play, but it's risky. But you can go back to those bench guys like Reddish and Jeng in a matchup like this if you think it's going to blow out.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Reddish in the limited time that he did get to play against Milwaukee last year. So that's definitely a guy that's on my radar this season.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you, though, there's some wild prices out here. Did you see Trae Young's price?
I did not.
It is over the top. I don't know if this is an error. I'm going to look it up as we talk because I'm having a hard time believing that this is true. It says on the breakout that I have that Trae is 13.8.
Oh.
But that's not even beyond.
That's like a single game price right there.
Yeah, that's almost like a captain's mode, and that's what I think it is. Now that I'm looking, because this isn't on. I was gonna say there's no way. So it's because DraftKings is treating this as a solo game.
Yeah.
So you get the 13.8 price tag on him.
Okay.
Which makes a lot more sense.
Makes sense.
So,
yeah.
Definitely. All right, let's flip it over to the Cleveland side. Again, we have the implied total there. This game total's not bad, but what do you think about the Cavs in this matchup? And have you been impressed by Evan Mobley?
Yeah, I've really been impressed by Evan Mobley, and he's probably the one guy that I would lean on in Cleveland, with Cleveland in this matchup. I'm not really sure I want to go to really anyone else, honestly. I'm just thinking that, like I said, it's probably going to be pretty much a blowout. So, but Evan Mobley should play good minutes, whether it's a blowout or not, with him being a rookie and the high draft pick and everything. They're going to want to play him as much as they possibly can. So Evan Mobley would definitely be one of my top picks.
Yeah, and it's funny, the Ricky Rubio I talked about on the podcast yesterday as being a nice little play if Garland was out, and he had a terrific.
Oh yeah,
so, yeah, good veteran guard. But with Garland back, I mean, you can always look at Garland Sexton, but the bottom line is they don't defend well. Trae Young should have a heyday. He didn't have a good scoring first game, so that's somebody to keep an eye on. But after that, you can go Mobley or Allen. I've had a hard time determining which one to go with. They're priced almost the same. Mobley's actually a little more expensive, but I'm not crazy about this game in general. I know the 222.5 isn't bad for an over/under, but Collins and Capella are pretty stout front line, so I think Mobley and Allen will have a little bit of trouble against them. But I do like this aspect, though, and the reason I'm with you on Mobley, and I mentioned him, is he's sort of immune to blowout time because they want to, every minute they can get him on the court is minutes he's going to learn because he's still raw.
Yeah.
So I think, really it's the Trae Young versus Evan Mobley show to me in this game, especially if you're playing it as a solo game.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, man, let's dive right directly into this main slate and get this sucker rolling. This is what the people want. They're looking for a big start at a 7 p.m. game. It's the early game all by itself for the main slate, and it is the Miami Heat against the Indiana Pacers. Miami's a 4.5-point favorite on the road, and it's a 226, nice, decent total there. 115.25 implied for Miami, 110.75 implied for Indiana. As far as any injuries here, we already know that Martin is a game time decision for Indiana. LeVert and Warren remain out. On the Miami side, we have questionable tags on Dedmon, the backup center, and Kyle Lowry, which is big news. That's the news we need to have because everybody knows if he sits, Hero's going to be 182 million% owned.
Right.
Everybody's going to jump on the Hero bandwagon. I've been, yelling about Hero here all preseason. He looks like a man on a mission. And then Oladipo remains out for Miami. So what do you got on the Heat today, Josh?
Yeah, so I was going to mention right off the bat what you mentioned about Tyler Hero, 5,500 on FanDuel, also 5,500 on DraftKings. So that's rare that we have the same price on both sites.
Yeah,
but like you mentioned, he's had a strong preseason. He's followed that up on Thursday, obviously against my Bucks with another strong night. Had 27 points, hit 4 out of 8 from 3. At 6 rebounds and 5 assists. And obviously he'll see increased minutes if Lowry's out this game. So Tyler Hero is definitely from the Heat side where I'm going to start out. And then with Kyle Lowry being questionable, you got to look at Gabe Vincent possibly as a value play. He's 3,600 on FanDuel, 3,400 on DraftKings. He only saw 12 minutes in the season opener against Milwaukee. But if, Lowry's out, that's going to increase his minutes, obviously, and he'll probably even start. So.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, I have a feeling though that Gabe would get minutes off the bench. I think Hero would start in Lowry's spot. So let's see. We'll have to watch that. But
yeah,
I don't think that you can really fade Hero if Lowry sits, just because my old theory, he's going to be so popular and be in such a good spot that you need him at least as a blocker. You don't want to be chasing those points. So I'm with you there. A couple other guys that are interesting, I think. And I'll talk DraftKings pricing, just rather than try to hit them all. But Duncan Robinson's 4.8, and he can score in bunches from 3. There's no doubt about it. Jimmy Butler is 8.5, which is pretty high. But boy, does he look like he's really playing some great ball. I'm not going to go Tucker, but the other guy I wanted to mention is Bam. Bam Adebayo smashed it for me last time. 7.8 is a mid price. I think that's a very fair price for him, and definitely interested there. This Pacers team's coming off that really great, exciting overtime game, which they lost. And you just wonder, can Turner turn right back around and have that type of a game, or is it going to go back to the Sabonis show? So I do like Bam. It's not the easiest matchup, but man, is he showcased this year and looking better and better.
Yeah, it's not the easiest matchup for either side. I mean,
No.
Miami's very tough on bigs. That would be my concern with Turner. I've mentioned Turner here too myself. He's almost a borderline value play at 5,900 on FanDuel, 5,600, even cheaper on DraftKings.
Yeah.
He had that monster game last night, so he's probably going to see a lot of ownership as people probably will want to chase that. But I think with the matchup, as tough as Miami is on the bigs, I'm a little leery of going back to Turner tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting with some of these guys, but I'm not even interested in Sabonis tonight. And I know he's the super duper star, but Miami's D's tough. Tucker and Adebayo, and although with Dedmon, if he's questionable, that really hurts their depth at the bigs. So I do want to, it doesn't sound like it's important, but really Sabonis being a possibility in one of my lineups has to do with Dedmon not being being able to play, because I think that he'll get some minutes with Bam off the floor where he can dominate. I'm definitely not going to chase the Turner performance. How many times have we seen him do this where he'll go for a 50-60 burger and follow it up with like an 18,
Yeah. I mean, we saw it with Jaylen Brown. I mean, I fell for that banana peel, last night. I mean, he had like 18 fantasy points after having 73 in that first game. So,
yeah, chasing is usually not a good thing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And aside, go ahead.
I was going to say, for Indiana, who I do like, though, I do like Malcolm Brogdon. I know he's had 2 monster starts, games this year to start the season, but I feel like that is the one area where you can kind of attack Miami, especially if Kyle Lowry's out. Tyler Hero's not the best defender in the world, so I think that Malcolm Brogdon would be a good play. 7,900 on FanDuel, 7,300 on DraftKings. And then also the rookie from Oregon, Chris Duarte, he's another strong value play, especially on DraftKings. He's only 3,900. As long as Paris LeVert remains out, I'm going to keep going back to him when it fits my lineup construction. So,
yeah, that Duarte does not play like a rookie. I mean, he was the reason he slipped in the draft is he's 25 years old. So he's like way older than guys like Luka that have been in the league. So, but there's a lot to be said about those guys. Look at him. He came in ready. First game, 7 threes and just hitting big shots, playing big minutes. I agree with you. I think Duarte and Brogdon are better plays actually than the bigs, in my opinion. Brogdon looks like he's playing some serious ball too.
Yeah.
And, one area that Heroes is not that good is defensively. Now, Lowry can be a bit of a dog because he's got all the veteran moves and grabs some charges and such. And Duncan Robinson is an underrated defensive player. He came into the league not as a defender at all and is now, you look at last season's DRPM and even starting out this year now, he's not bad. He can hold his own. So I know Duarte, because he's that sub 4K is going to be super popular.
Right.
At 7.3, I really have interest in Brogdon. But the problem is, I know Rick Carlisle, and Rick Carlisle's their coach now. And on back-to-backs, he does not extend his veterans overwhelmingly. So this is where I'm at with the Pacers, saying everything that we both said. I don't want to get Carlisle like we get popped. And I'm just afraid that you're going to see additional minutes from the McConnells, Lambs, Craigs, Brissett's, and it's going to affect the Brogdons, Duarte, Sabonis's. So I am more than likely going to pass on these Pacers, even though they're going to be popular for that particular reason is I see a dip coming in minutes and usage. And we talked about this before the show again, and you'll hear us revert to this as we're going. It's not old school. It's not, not looking at the analytics and numbers. It's being a wise DFS NBA player. And you have to know the inner workings of the coaches, their tendencies. Last year it wasn't like this. If Indiana had back-to-backs, they'd play their guys. It's a different coach. It's a different system. And buyer beware on the Pacers. For me, it's going to be pretty much a full pass, and I'll look more towards possibly a Butler or Bam or even a pay down Hero or Robinson. But Hero at 5.5, whether Lowry plays or not, is probably the best play in this game.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, buddy. Game 3, the Dallas Mavericks. Come on, Dirk.
Yeah.
That first game absolutely stunk. We need to get things going here, man. It's the Dallas Mavericks against the Toronto Raptors, and it's a super low total here. So I want to see how that affects your picks, Crash. It's Dallas minus 3.5 on the road. It's only 215.5, 109.5 implied for Dallas, 106 for Toronto. So, Vegas says don't use this game in DFS. The Mavs are not showing any injuries. Again, this is early Saturday. You got to follow this. Follow us in Discord. Jump in. Follow us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. We'll put updates up of how these injury reports change. And then we know Siakam's still out for Toronto. And the name I can never flip, Watanabe or Watanabe. I like to always say both to so that I don't get comments all over the place. But he is questionable. So, Dallas, what do you think of my Mavs, man? Are they going to bounce back?
I do think they will bounce back. I like Luka. He had a very bad game, for his standards. I mean, he had 18 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists.
Isn't that awesome that somebody can have 18, 11, and 7 and say he sucked? Isn't that amazing?
It really is. And, he played 35 minutes on top of it, so he's getting obviously a ton of minutes, even in a blowout situation there. And for him, 40 points, basically 40 fantasy points was a letdown. So, we're going to be looking at probably 50 to 60 most nights from him. So I think that's probably what he's going to put up tonight. I like Porzingis a little bit more in this matchup than, I did in the last matchup, going up against John Collins and Clint Capella. You've got Pascal Siakam is out, and Kyle Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell, had some success against Toronto. So I think that, this is a good matchup for Porzingis and, obviously Luka.
Well, I mean, you got the 10.8 number on Luka on an 8-game slate. That's a lot of commitment. Do you think it's worth it?
I do.
Okay. He's your main pay up guy. I know, seeing the interviews with him, he was really disappointed in his effort and, felt that was on his shoulders, but that's what leaders do. They take responsibility. Kristaps Porzingis is going to be the death of me, I swear. I mean, that guy, as our listeners that have been with us for a long time, I'm not a fan, and I really was down on him, faded him all last year. But he doped me into playing him this first game, because he had such a rejuvenated preseason, looked like he was engaged, and threw a real dud on the board. So, I get it at 7-3 on DraftKings. He's a fair price. He's a mid-tier, and he could do well. I just really don't trust him. That's my problem there. But Luka at 10.8 is a good target. I don't really think the rest of the guys, are priced right. What I do like, and something to mention here, is that whole factor I just talked about. Carlisle does not overplay his guys. He rotates them like crazy. It looks like Jay Kidd is going to be more, ride your main guys.
Yeah.
And I think that could make Luka, if he plays his game, an MVP kind of candidate, because his usage, he's got his hands on the ball the whole game. So,
right.
I mean, it's hard not to want to play him in any scenario. The only thing that scares me is to invest almost $11K in a Vegas game that's 215.5. Are there going to be enough DFS points available? But the jury's still out for me on Luka, but I do get it. But the other guys, I don't know, man. I just don't feel comfortable spending 6.2 on Hardaway. Worried about, again, like I said, Porzingis at 7.3. The guy I like, I keep going back to Jalen Brunson, because he's only 4K. He's the backup shooting and point guard, and he's a more viable guy in that offense when he's in there. I mean, he's in there without Luka. He is by far a usage monster. I mean, they have him out there with that second unit with Reggie Bullock, Sterling Brown, Dwight Powell, and Dorian Finney-Smith. None of those guys can create their own shot. Right. It's basically Brunson taking over the Luka role. So I think you got to really consider Brunson as a real nice cheap play that's going to be low owned, that can get his number. But after that, nobody else from Dallas excites me that much. What about the other side of the ball in Toronto? What do you got there?
I'm looking at a couple of value plays for Toronto. I'm looking at Scotty Barnes, 5,100 on FanDuel, 4,000 on DraftKings. So much better price on DraftKings. But he's got 32 and 35 minutes in his first two starts. And while Siakam's out, he's just going to have a key role in that offense. So I like Scotty Barnes. And I know this is a guy that you've played quite a bit, especially last year in Miami, was Precious Achiuwa. 3,600 on DraftKings. That's an awesome price. And, he's also seeing increased minutes because Siakam's out. So, it's been kind of a known key against Dallas is to attack them with bigs. And, so Achiuwa is in a good matchup. And at 3,600, it's just too cheap really for him.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think they'll both get ownership. Scotty Barnes, 4K on DraftKings, that's a broken price. I mean, if you play Scotty Barnes and Precious Achiuwa at 3.6, who's getting the main center minutes? He's starting, and he is the center. Birch is a backup. So I'm with you 100%, and it opens all the doors to building the rest of your lineup. So I think we're going to be we're going to be in the majority with Barnes and Achiuwa. I think they're going to get a lot of play because of their prices, and it does change the whole slate for you. But I'm with you. I think, Barnes, another guy that is somewhat blowout proof, loves him, but he knows he's a little bit raw. So you're going to have to take some lumps, some rookie nights with Barnes and a few turnovers here and there. But give me a guy that's going to get mid-30s minutes and be able to score the ball. And he assists and rebounds as well. So I'm with you on Barnes and Achua. I don't know if I'll play both, but it's possible because it does open the doors up. But one guy I wanted to ask you about, he's been underwhelming in the first couple of games, but he's a stud, and that's Fred VanVleet. 7.6, is that still too high?
It's funny because I was just about to ask you what you thought about Fred VanVleet.
I beat you to it.
No, you beat me to it. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what's, the situation there, why he struggled a little bit. I do feel like sometimes he can be a little bit 3-point dependent. And so if his shot's not falling, that could be the concern there with him. But he wasn't really on my radar just because I like some of the other guards on this slate more. But I don't know. What do you think it is?
I think you're right, man. And I think I know the reason. You look at statistical, because I looked at this because I think everybody's down on him a little bit. He misses playing alongside Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the Robin to the Batman as far as that goes. And what it did is Lowry sets him up. I mean, Lowry is a professional NBA point guard. And all those shots that VanVleet would get off of Lowry penetration or passing are gone. Now, not only is he not getting those, but he's the one having to handle the ball because Dragic is more of a scoring point guard.
Right.
And so you're not going to get, a ton from him as far as really running the show like a Lowry would do. I think, Malachi Flynn, even off the bench, same scenario. So it's just a different dynamic for VanVleet. And I think you're going to see his price continue to go down. And I'm probably not going to roster him until he gets sub 7.
Yeah, he's really a shooting guard, and he's having to play point guard, and it's just not an easy transition. I mean, he's not a drive and kick and all that. Like, that's just not his game. He's a pull-up shooter. So absolutely.
So I think the fade flag is out on VanVleet. He's capable. He could sting the Mavs, no doubt. He's capable any night when he's hot. But I think the scenario there is he really misses Lowry, and it's going to take a while to adjust.
Yeah.
All right, Chief. Let's go to game number 4. It's the New Orleans Pelicans and the Minnesota Timberwolves. It is Minnesota, who I'm loving Minnesota's look early on here. They're minus 6.5 in this game to the hapless Pelicans. 229. Nice juicy over under. Biggest so far on the night, and it is the second largest on the 8-game slate. It is 111.25 implied for the Pelicans, 117.75 for Minnesota. Very, very interesting game here. And let's look at the injuries initially in this game. We've got none for Minnesota. And then we have Josh Hart is questionable. I doubt he's going to play, but we'll see. And we know Zion is out because of too many Big Macs. No, I kid. It's his foot. All right, give me your take on these Pelicans. Is it the Ingram show again, or is this just a pass team at this point?
Yeah, I do like Brandon Ingram. I mean, obviously with Zion still out, he's having to kind of carry the load there. 45 and 41 FanDuel points in his first 2 starts. He's 8,300 on FanDuel. He's 8,000 on DraftKings. The guy that I like more than him, though, is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's 6,000 on FanDuel. He's 6,400 on DraftKings. He's just been just a little bit below Ingram in his scoring, but he's $2,000 cheaper, so great value there for Walker. I always liked Walker in the past, but he just was coming off the bench and not getting the real minutes that I felt like he deserved. So now with him starting, I think that he just has huge potential for a blow-up night every night. So
I love the take. I mean, I've been a Nah fan from when he came into the league. I just think he needed the opportunity, and he's getting it.
Yeah.
And he is a DFS points per minute monster himself. He really is. I like that. I just don't think the price is a little, much. He's 6.4. That stings a little bit. So that deters me. But really, I don't know how much anybody from the Pelicans is that playable other than Ingram right now. It's
Yeah.
just they have a bench of guys. They're using Hayes, Marshall, Murphy, Lewis, Satoransky, Temple. So they've got a deep bench, but it just hurts all of the DFS value from the other guys. So, yeah, I'm down on the Pelicans and high on the T-Wolves. So I think that 6.5 points, it could be a double-digit win for Minnesota. Although that's, you say that with the T-Wolves and then they'll fire up a loss somehow. But
Yeah.
what about Joe Val? Did you give him any look? He's only 7.2 on DraftKings.
Yeah, and he's even cheaper on FanDuel. He's 6,300, and he did have a game last year against them where he put up 24 points and 16 rebounds. So that was on my radar. That's one thing that stood out to me. So I do like Joe Val in tournaments. I think that he's going to be very low owned, and he could have potentially a blow up night. And if he does, you're going to be in a really good spot. So
I agree. And I really like him on FanDuel at 6.3. I think that's just too cheap.
Yeah.
And Cat's not a good defender. We know that. He's
Right.
It's always great to play Cat in the center against him because you're going to get some points. But Joe Val, the only thing that scares me with him is it happened a lot in the second half of last season. You're already starting to see some of it now. He gets in foul trouble.
Yep.
And he takes stupid fouls too. He gets frustrated and just hacks or reaches. And Cat's going to shoot the ball a million times. So I'm just, you always panic when you take Joe Val and you see too early fouls and you want to throw up. So, but it's 6.3, man. It's almost too good to pass up. But really he and Ingram are the only two guys. Walker, I get it. I like him, but I just don't know if that price is fair enough.
Yeah.
What about on the Minnesota side, man?
Yeah, I like D'Angelo Russell, 7,600 on FanDuel. He's 8,300 on DraftKings. He only played 24 minutes in the opener, and he still put up almost 40 fantasy points. So I definitely like D'Angelo Russell. And then my rookie of the year last year was Anthony Edwards. He was one of my favorite players in the whole league. 7,700 on FanDuel, 7,300 on DraftKings. It kind of surprised me because he made 6 threes in the opener. You look at him as this just monster dunker and just, scoring all over the place. But for him to hit 6 threes, if he's going to be a great 3-point shooter on top of everything else he can do, that's pretty scary for the league.
Oh, it is. He has phenomenal talent. His physical ability is staggering.
Off the chart. Amazing. It really is. And then, of course, Cat, 11,000 on FanDuel, 10,200 on DraftKings. I'm not sure if I'm going to go there because I'm going to probably be paying up for some other guys, but that's still in play. Like you said, if Jonas gets in foul trouble, then that's really going to open things up for him. So he's definitely in play as a pay up big.
Yeah, and I mean it's really tough if you go Luka and Cat though. You're talking about having to play some minimum price guys, but no, I mean Cat is certainly a huge option. I mean they look so good, but I want to run this by you. The teams that have the 3 super studs. We talk about always last year with Phoenix with who do you play between Paul, Booker, and Ayton? I almost feel like we're in that scenario now with Minnesota.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and Karl Anthony Towns, those 3 guys can break a slate. And to have those 3 on the same team paired up with guys that are just complementary players that aren't going to take those offensive stats away in guys like Okogie and McDaniels and Vanderbilt, McLaughlin, Nasri, those guys are all complementary players. Almost all of the touches, offensive efficiency are going to come from Russell, Edwards, and Towns. Now, that's great. But the problem is, we don't stack in the NBA. It's just it's dangerous to do that, especially on big slates. So, can you play 2 of them? You can. But it really becomes, to me, that whole scenario is, choosing one of the 3 of them to, extend out based on the matchup. or, does it cancel each other out and not play any of them? And that's the frustrating part, is trying to figure that out at this point. And you look at some of the matchups here, as if Joe Val doesn't get in foul trouble, he is a body that can bother Towns a little bit. Devontae Graham is not a good defender, so that does make me want to play Russell. And Nikhil Alexander Walker struggles defensively, and that brings Edwards into play. But I rostered Edwards the last game, but not Russell, and watched the majority of that game, and it was frustrating. It was that whole feel of Paul Booker last year watching Phoenix, or I could name or LeBron and AD, whatever. There's a split there, and there's open shots that aren't being utilized because the other guy's going to get his. So they're both going to take a lot of shots. And therefore, I don't know, man. I'm just so psycho about when guys split usage in minutes, and if this does get blowoutish a little bit, I'm just a little concerned about spending 8-3, 7-3, or 10-2 on those main guys.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think that this could be a fade. This game could be a fade. So,
and it's at 229 with two teams that don't defend very well. I don't know if you can afford to fade it, though. That's my concern. That's the decision game. I think that's going to be the pivotal game. If you choose the right one-off from each side for this game, let's say it is, Alexander Walker and Anthony Edwards, whatever, I think that can, really give you a win, and fading the guy that's not going to have that big game, because all of those guys we mentioned on Minnesota are going to be highly owned. And same thing with Brandon Ingram. So, that's, I think, the key pivotal game on the slate.
You think Edwards will play the most if it is a blowout?
Well, it definitely won't be Russell. He always seems to be on limited minutes, and that always scares me of wanting to play him. You could just eat Devontae Graham for lunch and dinner, so it makes me nervous there. I think Edwards gets your most run in more of a blowout situation than Cat or Russell. But again, when you say blowout, is this going to be 20-point game? Because if it's a 14, 15-point game, those guys are going to get regular rotation.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. There's no question. All right, we've got 4 games left. Real quickly here, if you're interested in checking out more of this type of information and really getting down to the nitty-gritty, join us. Go to dfscoachtalk.com. You can sign up for as little as a 3-day pass for $10. We have a 5-day for $19. And the big key factor, Crash, tell the people, when you sign up for Coach Talk, do you have to buy each individual sport?
No, you do not. We give you every sport. That's, baseball, basketball, football, PGA. What am I fit? Did I forget anything? That's it. Okay. Yeah.
You got the 4 core.
Yep, exactly. So we give you all sports, and, you can come join our Discord, and we've got great plays that we save for our members. So that's one of the biggest benefits of being a member. And we just have a great conversation, and all of our members just really interact with each other. Just a really good, like a family type group. So.
Exactly. And once you're in the family, you get everything we've got, all our sports, all our lineups. We're providing a coach's clipboard and core play for DraftKings, full lineups for FanDuel and Yahoo. And again, that, like Josh said, all of the information we're sharing constantly in Discord, usage, all the different aspects of the games coming up that evening in each sport. And then you're going to get, 20 to 30 minutes before, you're going to get those lineups and be able to plug them in from there. So we would love to have you try us out. And we're coming off a Millie Maker tie for that last week on the hybrid lineup that Andrew Hansen provided NFL-wise, which was awesome. And we've had big wins recently in all the other, 3 sports: golf, basketball, and baseball, which you've done a great job with. So, all right. We would love to have you. Give us a shout. And we're also on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk as a group. I'm at Joe Sarvati, JoeSarvati. VADI. Tell the people where they can find you on Twitter, Crash.
They can find me at JP Davis 1982.
Excellent. And if you want to hit up Andrew for football or whatever, he is at Language Olympic. All right. Game 5, 8 p.m. start, Detroit Pistons, Chicago Bulls. Here's where we have the lowest total of the night. It is Chicago -9. So you've got a big spread that could blow out, and it's only 213.5. So is this just a cross-off game right off the bat?
I mean, to me, it kind of is. I only have one guy written down for Detroit. You've got really 4 different options from Chicago. So that alone kind of tells you this is not an evenly matched game, obviously. This is blowout city for me. So I'm thinking that this is going to be over pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an implied total of 102.25 for Detroit and 111.25 for Chicago, which is reasonable. But, I'll just say this real quick, and then I'll let you touch on both sides, because this is the game I'm just not going to look at.
Yeah.
Detroit, they're using a lot of guys. They haven't quite put all the pieces together. And Chicago, now we're down to trying to figure out who the hell to play from the Bulls between Ball, Levine, DeRozan, and Vukovic.
Yeah.
And all 4 of them are expensive. You've got, 6.8, 8.6, 7K, and 8.9. I don't know if I trust any of that.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, for Detroit, the main play for me was going to be Jeremy Grant, if anyone. He had a breakout season last year and should continue to be the main fantasy option for them. And then for Chicago, I mean, you could look at Zach LaVine. To me, he's been their top guy. I think, he's kind of felt a little bit of a pressure relief, with all these guys being added to the squad, that he doesn't have that pressure to score every night like he used to. So I think that he's enjoying that. But yeah, for me, it's really kind of a fade.
I'll tell you, man, I've got the Bulls like 4th in the East right now out of nowhere. I mean, I've said this in the preseason. If you check out, by the way, if you're still looking for an overview, being the first week of the NBA season, we have 2 podcast posted, one for Eastern Conference preview and one for Western Conference. And I'll tell you, a lot of stuff that was stated on there is rolling out that way. So if you have a chance, go back and check some of those out. They're both posted on YouTube, DFS Coach Talk. But it's tough. I don't really want to pay 8.6 for Levine with all that help that he has, and in a game that can blow out, which he won't get those extra minutes in a game like that. So I'm not going to belabor the point. For me, it's going to be, this is the game I'm going to cross off.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, we go to game 6. It's this little scrappy team that got blown out last time. I don't know if you know much about the Milwaukee Bucks, but I'm surprised you didn't have Bucks gear on today, to be honest with you. But
if we were doing this podcast on Wednesday, I may have. But after what happened on Thursday, not too impressed with that.
That was a strange happening there. Didn't make any sense, but they should get healthy today. It's Bucks versus Spurs. Spurs are bad. It is Milwaukee by 7.5, 224 over under, 115.75 implied for Milwaukee, 108.25 for the Spurs. What do you think of the Bucks, man? You're the Bucks man.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, this game could be, a big bounce back game for them. It should be. The Spurs are kind of redeveloping, rebuilding their team a little bit. Obviously, Giannis is always in play for me, almost on any slate. He's very expensive. That's kind of why I've been leaning towards a lot of these value plays, because I'm going to build my lineup around those so I can get him in there. He's 11,200 on FanDuel. He's 10,500 on DraftKings. Chris Middleton is in play for me, but not my top play. At shooting guard, I'm looking for more value there. Jordan Nwora has been really good. Now that he's getting the opportunities that he wasn't getting last year, I've been really impressed with him. I feel like if he can be that consistent, 4th, 5th option for them, that's just going to make them that much tougher to beat. on most nights when they don't play like they did against Miami. So, so those are the main three guys for me. I think that some people might look at Drew Holiday, but I kind of feel like him and DeJounte Murray are going to cancel each other out a little bit. So I'm not really looking for either one of those guards. So that's pretty much it. Those three: Middleton, Giannis, and Nwora for Milwaukee. So what are you looking at for Milwaukee?
Well, I was so excited to throw it over to you with the Bucks. I forgot to mention the injuries in this game. So let me check those real quickly. We have Holiday, who missed the last game. He's probable, along with Rodney Hood. And then guys that are out: DiVincenzo, Brooke Lopez. So that's a bit of a story. Ogilvy, and then Bobby Portis remains out. So their front line, is it going to be the Antetokounmpo brothers, or what is? I don't know, man. Is that affect things for you from that standpoint?
Yeah, they'll probably put Thanasis in there quite a bit. I was looking at it from the opposite side though a little bit too. I think that this is going to be a good game for Jakob Poeltl, and I don't think that a lot of people are going to play him. He's 4,900 on DraftKings. Brooke Lopez is the main rim protector for Milwaukee, and without him in there, we saw it with Bam on Thursday, that he can just kind of eat down there. And so I think that Jakob Poeltl is going to be a good play for San Antonio. And the other guy I'm looking at is Lonnie Walker, 4,200 on DraftKings. We saw what Tyler Hero and Patty Mills both did against Milwaukee. They kind of struggle from time to time guarding against three-point shooters. So I think that Lonnie Walker is going to be another good value on this game.
Yeah, and Lonnie's getting up shots and getting some usage. I have a question for you though, because in trying to break this game down to see what's playable, with Holiday coming back, is the lineup and Lopez being out, do they just bump down Giannis to center?
That's usually what they do. Yeah.
Because that makes me think, do they play Jakob Poeltl off the floor? Because he can't guard Giannis.
That's true.
And so who's going to guard Giannis is the question at the 5. It's different if Poeltl's fine and dandy if Lopez is in there like normal because he can guard Lopez. But I'm just concerned if Poeltl gets played off the floor. And it just makes Giannis, to me, really probably the best play on the slate, in my opinion. I don't know how they're going to match up against him.
Yeah, they've got besides Poeltl, who they have down there, they've got I'll
give you the depth chart on San Antonio, and let's
is
try to
Eubanks? Is that who are they starting him, or is he coming off the bench?
Who's that?
Drew Eubanks.
Yeah, he's the backup center to Poeltl. So here's the depth chart right now. Murray, White, McDermott gets some starts, not all of them. Keldon Johnson and Jakob Poeltl. Now, Lonnie Walker's been getting a ton of minutes and some starts over McDermott. So that could be the case there. But they really haven't been using Thad Young. And I would think Thaddeus Young could get the call today to guard Giannis, because after that, you're screwed. I don't know. Yeah. Poeltl and Eubanks can't guard. I mean, nobody can guard Giannis, but you used to have a fighting chance. Keldon Johnson is too small. I just think that this could be a Thad Young play, and it's a good GPP shot if you're really trying for a different lineup.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, Giannis, I think, again, best play on the slate because San Antonio has no answer at all. And I think Thad Young is forced into play here because if, like you say, if they try to guard Giannis with Poeltl or Eubanks, they're in deep trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking more about Poeltl in the traditional role, but yeah, if Giannis is playing the 5, that's really going to push him off the floor, like you were saying. So I may have to reconsider that. But yeah, I think that Thad Young, he could have some minutes here in this game.
The only other aspect, I hate to double and triple. I mean, our listeners are going to say, well, you're saying to play these guys or not play them. Well, I think this could blow out so easily. I mean, that last game for Milwaukee was an aberration. Drew Holiday didn't play. He's their quarterback, and they're mad they lost that game so badly. Spurs are bad. I don't care what anybody says. I respect Popovich, but this team stinks. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to make the playoffs. And Milwaukee could just lay one on them. And if they do, we know Coach Bud's not going to play Giannis or Middleton or these guys extended minutes, and especially Holiday coming off a missed game. So I'm afraid of this game, but it's another one of those scenarios where you may need to have Giannis to win big, or that could be a downfall if they hammer the Spurs. It's a scary spot.
There is some risk there, but Giannis usually does get quite a few minutes, more than you might think in blowouts. I mean, he did quite a bit last year. They had quite a few blowouts at the end of the year, and they put him in there. And a lot of our fans, the Bucks fans, were like, we need to take Giannis out. What are we doing? So
right.
It wouldn't surprise me too much. But with that being said, he didn't play him extended minutes in that last game against Miami. He pulled him, there in the fourth quarter. So
if push comes to shove, not to put you on the spot, but if you can only have one giant pay up, who do you lean more towards, Luka or Giannis?
Well, Luka is not even on the main. He's not on the main slate, is he?
Well, he is. Yes, he is. It's a 7:30 game. So
okay. I was thinking that game was before.
The only game before the main slate's Atlanta-Cleveland. So we're not going to talk about Trey or whatever. But
no, that's what I was thinking of. Was Atlanta-Cleveland? Okay, yeah. Luka or Giannis? Whew. That's a tough decision. I'll go Luka.
When you're thinking about it, I'm gonna throw this out there to you, because I'm gonna try to build a lineup when we get done here with Luka and Giannis. And I know it's going to be very hard, but there are some hugely underpriced guys, some great values, some rookies that haven't gotten the respect they deserve yet from DFS world and pricing. I just think those two guys are just so much ahead of everybody else. It's so hard. I don't know if it can be done and have a competitive team, but man, those two guys seem to stand out way above everybody else in my projections.
Yeah, it can be done for sure on FanDuel. Now, DraftKings is going to be more challenging, because I always have a hard time putting lineups together when I put in big studs like that. Because I played in the opening games on Tuesday. I played Giannis, Durant, and Steph Curry.
Wow.
So it can definitely be done. But on DraftKings, I'm gonna probably lean more towards Luka, because, like we were saying, that could be a blowout in San Antonio.
Wouldn't that be funny if you played Luka and I played Giannis?
You played Giannis, yeah.
That's the way I'm leaning towards Giannis. So that could be a real riot. We'll be crying to each other. One of us will, or maybe not. Maybe they'll both.
Yeah. I think you'll still get a lot of ownership. So I may end up playing Giannis in cash and Luka in my tournaments. That might be how I end up doing it.
That's not a bad spot. All right, let's keep rocking and rolling, because we still have two games left. We do have good late night 2-game slate. Maybe we'll have to provide a bonus 2-gamer tonight. What do you think, Crash?
I'm up for it.
This Milwaukee San Antonio game's at 8:30, and then we have a big break of an hour and a half. The 2 late games are at 10 and 10:30. So if you become a member, and for the members that are listening, we'll put that late night 2-game slate, after hours, whatever you want to call it, in there. And that 10 p.m. game is the Phoenix Suns and the Portland Trail Blazers. So let's take a look at the lines in this game. You've got the Phoenix Suns are underdogs by 2.5 to Portland. That's a surprise. I thought Phoenix would.
Wow, that is a surprise.
Yes. So Vegas is smart, though. So look out. I mean, it seemed like I would have said Phoenix by 3, and it's Portland by 2.5, and I'm usually not that far off. It's a 232. Bingo. We have a winner. It's a 232 over under. So that is interesting. Why is my mouse like frozen up on me? I don't know. I got to figure this one out. But it is 232 over under, and it is a 114.75 implied for Phoenix and a 117.25 for the Portland Trail Blazers. If I can get my mouse to work, it's frozen. Let's look at the injuries in this game real quickly. Dario Saric out for Phoenix. Tony Snell, game time decision, questionable for Portland. What do you got on the Suns side?
I'm looking at some value plays here with the Suns. I'm looking at Mikal Bridges, 5,700 on FanDuel, 4,900 on DraftKings. He kind of started to really come into his own last year during the playoffs, and I think that he's just going to pick up right where he left off this year and really be a key piece for the Suns, giving them some more firepower. And then another value play, especially on FanDuel, he's only 3,900, is going to be Jake Crowder. It's not going to give you 40 to 50 fantasy points, but for lineup construction, I think it's a good play. So looking at Jake Crowder and Mikal Bridges from Phoenix.
Yeah, I've always been a Mikal Bridges guy. I think he's tough. And his price is always very fair, 4.9. When you're sub 5 and you're going to get big minutes, I like that. We know Lillard and McCollum are awesome, but they're not good defenders. So Paul and Booker both have to be considered, in my opinion. I think they're both in play at 7.5 and 8.1. Bridges being the cheaper play. Crowder you can also go to, and again, we Cam Johnson off the bench, Shamet. They do have a nice bench.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit more spicy too.
Any concern about Paul after he had to chase around Russell Westbrook all night last night?
Not really. I think that, the fact though that it's Lillard that he has to go against doesn't make it any easier. But for a veteran like that, I mean, he's spent all these years having to face guys like that on every given night. So
I was just thinking more because it's a back-to-back,
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. Personally, there's too many other good guards, but I like Booker a little bit better, but I'm not sure I'm going to go either direction. It's just hard. I may go with a more value play like a Bridges or something as well. What about on the Portland side?
On the Portland side, I do think, that, like you said, Paul's a veteran. I think he's going to do a good job defending against Dame. I'm leaning more towards CJ McCollum. I know he had the big game last game, but I'm leaning more towards him. 7,400 on DraftKings. That's a really good price if he's going to give us, 40 to 50 or more fantasy points. And I'm going to respect DeAndre Ayton's defense and not go with Nurkic. So I'm mainly just looking at CJ McCollum, I think, for the Portland side.
Yeah, and 232, it's a late night sweat game. It's hard to, you can't really pass this game. You got to have some exposure and pick your spot, where you want to do it. There might be some value in a guy like Powell or Covington, in the fives range, 5K range. Dame is 10-3 makes it very, very tough on DraftKings. To save almost 3,000 and go down to McCollum makes a lot more sense. I think you'll see a lot of people do that. And, McCollum might be the best play on the Portland side, believe it or not. So I definitely want some exposure. I'm not going to be stacking up this game, probably one off on each side as well. But definitely want to have some players playing in this late game. Not because it's the late game, just because it is the highest total on the board. All right, let's move on to game 8 and get this sucker wrapped up. We got the Memphis Grizzlies at the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers favored by 3.5, 225.5 over under, 111 implied for Memphis, 114.5 implied for the Clippers. What do you think about the Grizz and Mr. Ja Morant and 9.2K?
Yeah, that's going to be another decision I'm going to have to make because I really like Ja Morant. Eric Bledsoe is not the best defender. I think that, this is a really good matchup for Morant. I think that he's going to carry this team most of the year, obviously, especially with Valanciunas gone now. But Jaren Jackson is back, so he's another play that I do like. 6,200 on DraftKings. And then for some value, you could look at Desmond Bane, only 3,300. So that would be, the three guys from Memphis that I'm looking at would be Morant, Bane, and Jackson.
Yeah, I love Ja. I'm with him as far as this is his breakout, most improved, all-star kind of season. I really do believe he's that good. But man, 9.2, they penalized us there. You could get Ja as a mid-range guy for most of last season.
Right.
So that stings and it affects the rotation. But I do like Ja a lot here. Memphis is really sort of shaped up now that Jovel's gone and everything. It really is totally Ja's team. He is the man. I think you're going to see his usage continue to climb. And I think, he's, again, I think a great target on any slate. Not impressed with Reggie Jackson, Eric Bledsoe's defense. Terrence Mann can defend, though. And he'll come in and guard Ja and hawk him a bit. So that's what scares me on the 9.2 9.2 salary, but still definitely a playable entity. Triple J, I still think is a stud. 6.2, that lower mid-level. He's really their go-to scoring guy. They need him big time. The Adams is not anywhere comparable to Jovel from the offensive side. Adams will block out, get those rebounds, do what he needs to do, but he's going to leave the scoring to Jackson, and Jackson can hit the threes too.
Right.
So he's always on my radar as well. The question I have is, and I hate to keep putting you on the spot like this, but it's good for discussion purposes. Who do you think Paul George guards? Is it going to go ahead? I'll let you.
Let's see. So I'm guessing it would probably be either D'Anthony Melton or Jaren Jackson. I could see, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll guard Triple J. He's just not quite the size.
Yeah.
So I think he'll stone that group of Melton, Bain, any of those guys that come in at that level. I don't know if George can handle Morant's speed. I doubt it. And, if Morant does smoke Jackson and Bledsoe so much, George, he can guard 1 through 4.
True. Yeah.
He may get a little look at Morant. So I'm going to do a lot of looking for coach speak and beat writer stuff. I want to see what those matchups are going to look like, because if they do decide to give George a shot at Morant, that's going to be a question mark for me then on the Morant side, because I think George is going down. But, that changes the rotation a bit there. But regardless, I think it'll be Marcus Morris on Triple J. And I think he can do pretty well against him without question. So
that would make more sense. Marcus Morris. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of him for some reason, but yeah, Morris would probably be the best matchup there.
Yeah. So, Terrence Mann off the bench isn't a bad play. Reggie Jackson at 6.6 is fair. I think, you can look at him as a possible play in this game. Really, a 225 total is not bad. The question is, do you invest in Ja and expect him to carry this squad in LA? Or, and I'll leave this final, team to you then, is Paul George at sub 10 barely at 9.8? Does he become one of the main key focuses paying up for?
He could be. I mean, while Kawhi Leonard's out, like you mentioned in your preview show, he's going to be the man, in LA for the Clippers. And, he's definitely capable of putting up that 40, 50, even 60-point fantasy night on any given night. And the other question I would have is who's going to guard him, I would look at, him having a matchup against pretty much anyone on Memphis. So that could be, he could end up being the guy where we were thinking, that Giannis or Luka or somebody like that has the big night. He could be the one that ends up having the big night. So he's definitely in play for me. Like you said, 9,800 on DraftKings. And then for some value, Terrence Mann, like you mentioned, he played 39 minutes against Golden State. So if he's going to play a ton of minutes like that, we saw what he could do last year in the playoffs. And I think that's a great 4,400 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings is a great price for a guy like that with tremendous upside. And then Eric Bledsoe had a really good game against the Warriors, but I think Ja Morant's going to give him some trouble. So I'm not going to go with Bledsoe this game.
Yeah, Bledsoe did have a good game, but I lean more towards Reggie Jackson there. I think taking bigger shots. As far as who's going to guard George, I would assume Desmond Bain will start out on him, and then Kyle Anderson, who's a heck of a good defender, will come in off the bench to guard him. So between Bain and Anderson, both plus defenders, I think they can give George a little bit of trouble. I love Paul George, but at almost that 10K number with those two defending him, Tyler Jenkins, the Memphis coach, has good defensive schemes. And if he can break it up between two guys to stay fresh on him, I think it can cause George a little trouble, which really brings Jackson more into play for me.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, I'd love to be able to go Ja and Jackson in this final game. It's just, I'll tell you, man, I messed with this before the pod. The salaries are tough.
Yeah.
We're taught, we probably highlighted guys that we completely love, about 12 or 15 guys, but you can fit like 2 of them, maybe 3 in your lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's a tough night. It's going to be very competitive, but this is when you love it, because you're not going to have super duper chalk. You're going to have a lot of guys, combinations, and we'll certainly be able to give you those to you at Coach Talk here. On the way out the door, please hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, give us a little comment. We'd love to hear from you there. If you want to join us, we'll be in Discord, is what I'm trying to say, all afternoon up until lock. We'll give you updates on injured players, updates on what we're hearing through the beat writers and through the teams, and we'll formulate some final decisions to build some winning lineups. So DFSCoachTalk.com, even if it's for a 3-day pass, jump in now. You get all of our action today for basketball. We've got our golf started for this weekend. Now we've got baseball with Crash will be on there providing lineups there, and then huge football Sunday and Monday Night Football. So jump in with us. Any final words there, Mr. Crash? I enjoyed this show with you, breaking it down. I know it was a little longer than we had planned, but man, I don't want to short our viewers. I think if you're really serious and you really want to win, you really need to hear what you need to hear. And we will have a breakdown. Tyler will break down the games. If you want to listen to specific games, you can jump to each one from that standpoint. So any final words, buddy?
Yeah, I think that I enjoyed it too, and I'm looking forward to doing these with you on the Saturday podcast. And it should be a fun night to watch some basketball. So I'm looking forward to it and hoping the Bucks will bounce back, and you're hoping the Mavs will bounce back. So we're in the same boat there.
Exactly. Between the two of us, Luka and Giannis are going to be in play somewhere along the way. So we'll be looking for those guys too. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Great pod. I hope our listeners enjoyed it as well. And I'll be back tomorrow solo for the Sunday podcast. And then we'll go through our rotation, getting Andrew involved, and then, of course, Crash too. So really appreciate you. Give us any questions, any thumbs up, any info. We'd love to hear it. Check us out on Twitter or at dfscoachtalk.com. So for my partner here today, jumping tipping center, he's going to win the center tip, Mr. Crash Davis. For him and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I am Joe Sarvati, known as Coach. We thank you and appreciate your listening, and we'll catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in NBA DFS.